Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Michaela, and we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of March and all of the books that are on my April TBR. The first book that I read in the month of March was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I'm actually reading this with my book club. We are having our Zoom discussion about it tonight. I cannot wait to gush about this book with all of my friends and Patreon. I'm so excited. Okay, if you couldn't tell just from me doing that quick little intro, this book was an easy 5-star read for me. This is my now favorite contemporary romance. I absolutely adored this book. This book follows Lucy, our female main character, and Aiden, our male main character. And Lucy is a single mom, and her daughter calls into this radio show that Aiden hosts and just lets him know that her mom is single for a long time. She's lonely. She wants her to be happy. It's loosely based off of Sleepless in Seattle, and it's just such a cute premise for this book. But honestly, just like what B.K. Borison says in our author's note in the back, this book truly does feel like a love letter to love. I absolutely loved this book. I was giddy. I had butterflies. I was like kicking my feet. I adored this story. I love Lucy and Aiden's dynamic. It's a grumpy sunshine trope, forced proximity. Oh, it's so good. And it feels, at least being 33, I feel like it's a very realistic, raw, and vulnerable look at what it's like to be dating right now, especially in your 30s. And it just felt really grounded and mature in that way. It didn't feel unrealistic. There were some pages for Lucy. Let me see if I can actually find one real quick. Okay, here we go. Just flipped right to it. That's funny. There were some pages for Lucy. I literally highlighted the entire page. When I tell you, I'm obsessed with this book. I'm literally smiling eel to eel, for sure. I'm literally smiling. Words are so hard today. This isn't going to be a great video. I apologize now. I am just smiling ear to ear when I think about this book. It is truly my favorite contemporary romance that I've ever read, and it will be in my top 5, if not my top 3 for the whole year. I adore this story. The next book that I read with my Patreon book club, that's always linked down below if you ever want to join us. We read 2 different books every month. Usually we have one from the fantasy or romantasy genre, and then we have another one that's more of like a general fiction. Sometimes it's romance, sometimes it's historical fiction. So there's always 2 different picks every month. So hopefully you vibe with at least one book or the other. And our romantasy pick for the month of March was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I finished this book last week, I believe, and we're having our Zoom discussion for our book club tomorrow, which is going to be Thursday, the 27th. I have no idea when I'm posting this, but we're having our Zoom discussion about this tomorrow. I feel like, though, what happened in the month of February, I read Onyx Storm with my book club, and I rated that 3.5 stars. I feel like, though, after having the Zoom discussion with my book club about Onyx Storm, I ended up being like, oh, this is a 5-star read. I had so much fun discussing a fantasy book with other people, and it just made me fall in love with the story more and the world more and all of those things. So I have a feeling after I talk about Quicksilver with my book club, I have a feeling that I'm going to probably end up rating it closer to like a 4.25 or 4.5 stars because I just love talking about books with other people. And this one, kind of a backstory of what this book is about. It is about our female main character, Saris. She comes in contact with someone from another realm because she has access to an old relic that she wasn't supposed to or hasn't been seen for thousands of years. She ends up getting access to this relic, meets Kingfisher, someone from another realm. He's a fae, and they go into another realm, the Fae realm, and there's vampires in this story. There's a lot of other magical creatures, and it was kind of a wild ride, and that's why I think I'm having such a hard time even giving a summary of this book, because it was just a lot. Especially, I feel like the last 50 pages, 100 pages, it was so info dumpy. I was like, whoa. There was like plot twist, this, and it was like so many revelations were happening at at the very end, and I wish that those were kind of paced out more throughout the book. So that was my only thing that I didn't love, was that I felt like we were kind of building this world that was a little bit slow, and then it was like, boom, last 100 pages explained all these things that I had questions about while I was reading. So in terms of just like formatting and pacing, it wasn't my favorite, but I did love the tension between the female and the male main character. As I've said in videos past, I'm not a huge enemies to lovers fan, especially when you can just tell, like, we know you both like each other. We know that there's this like sexual tension, like who are you trying to kid? And I feel like that's why I just don't like enemies to lovers, because it's annoying. I'm like, just be honest, say if you like the person or if you don't. I feel like that trope for me never really works out too well. I don't know. I guess I didn't love the female main character, and I think that's a big part of why I didn't love this as much as I probably would have. Overall, I will read book 2. I did have a fun time reading it. There were just parts where I was just kind of confused with it. And I think it's difficult though too, and I want to make this caveat. I am also about 400 pages into Kingdom of Ash right now. So I think it's hard because my brain, it has been in this world, and it was hard to kind of get my brain acclimated to this world. So I would not recommend trying to read 2 fantasy series at the same time. It's just really hard to kind of keep everything straight. And I think that's why I can't remember as many details about this one as I would like to. So I definitely need to refresh before I talk about it with my book club tomorrow. Next book that I read in the month of March, Wild Dark Shore. This is by Charlotte McConaughey. I hope I'm not mispronouncing her last name, and I apologize if I am. Wild Dark Shore, it was one of my book of the month choices for the month of March, and I loved this book. I just want to start out by saying easy 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. Wow. Talk about packing a punch. This is a 300-page book, and every page felt so intentional and thoughtful. Every POV we get in this felt thoughtful and intentional as well. And in terms of how I read this one, I actually started out just with the audiobook. I listened to it for the first 70%. I listened to it on the app Everand. Love that app, by the way. This is not sponsored, but I just love listening to audiobooks on there. And so I listened to the first 70% on audio because I was waiting for the physical copy. And then for the last 30%, I listened to the audio and read it physically and did more of an immersive read. And I loved doing it that way. I will definitely be rereading this, and I want to reread it, listening to it and reading the physical book. Oh, what an impactful story. Oh my gosh. Okay, so in terms of what this story is about, I don't want to say too much because I think this is just one I would recommend you just go into it. Don't read the summary, just go in and just enjoy the ride. It's a story about this family that is living on this pretty desolate island, and they were living with a bunch of researchers. And the island is located above Antarctica, under Australia and New Zealand / Tasmania, I think. But it's a pretty desolate, very remote island. And what ends up happening is that this family's been living there, and a woman washes up on shore, and you have this underlying mystery kind of woven throughout the book, and there's a lot of unanswered questions, so you're kind of theorizing things as you read through this. So there's that mystery through line. It's contemporary fiction. There's a romance in this as well. It's such a genre bender in that way, where it doesn't fit perfectly into one box. But I absolutely loved this book. I loved the multiple POVs. Also the audiobook, they have Australian accents, which I love. Every single person did, which was really cool. I feel like this book was really emotional. There's a found family aspect to it as well. The romance, the kids that are in this story, the wildlife, the nature. There was just so much richness to this story. And I truly felt like I was transported into this little island. I could visualize everything because the writing was that vivid and beautiful. It was completely immersed in this world, and I could not stop listening. I could not stop reading it. It was beautifully written, one, but two, it was just such a captivating and haunting read. It's just got so much good commentary on the state of our world right now in terms of what's going on with global warming, with our animals, with seeds, with all these things. I felt like I was learning a lot too as I was reading it, and was Googling things just to look up what these different birds looked like, or what the island itself looked like and what it's based off of. And at the very end, she lets you know the island that the story was kind of based off of. And I just found this story to be one where I was completely lost in this world for the 2 days or 3 days that it took me to read it. I think it was only 2 days. I loved this book. I loved the writing. I loved the characters. I loved the story, the mystery, every single part of this I loved. I could not recommend it more, whether you choose to listen to it or read it physically. I loved both formats, so I honestly would recommend going either way. You won't regret it. It's a quick, short read, but so impactful. Ooh, I loved that book. The next book that I read, Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. Yes. Do I have 2 versions of this book? Yes. Did I need 2 versions? Absolutely not. Do I regret it? No. I'm so happy to have both of these versions. I read physically this one right here, and that's the one that I've all tapped up, but this one is just so stunning. This is the Barnes & Noble Book Club edition. I just think it's absolutely beautiful, especially with the tree on this one. And if you've read the story, you know why that tree is significant. But okay, Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This is actually a Reese book club pick. And I had seen an Instagrammer that I love following. Her name's Emily Booked Up. I trust her recommendations more than any person that I follow because I feel like her and I have very similar tastes. She kind of reads a little bit of everything, but I really love going to her for any contemporary or general fiction. I feel like she likes the same kind of contemporary fiction books that I do. So after I saw her rave about this and give it 5 stars, I was like, oh, I need to read this. And then 2 other people who I love following on Instagram, I'm gonna put all their handles here. These 3 Instagrammers were raving about this book, and they really solidified the fact that I wanted to kind of bump this up on my March TBR. And I ended up reading this book in 2 sittings. I literally sat down to start reading it on Friday night, and I finished it Saturday. I have never been so addicted to a book in my entire life. I could not physically put this book down. I had to literally pry it out of my own hands just to go to bed on Friday night. I didn't want to go to bed. I ended up staying up till 1:30 in the morning on Saturday finishing this because I was that enmeshed in this story. I was completely engrossed, enthralled, enraptured, all the things. I was in it. I was in this English countryside with them. Okay, but let me actually talk about what this book's about. It's so good. It's so good. If you couldn't tell, also, this is an easy 5-star read. This is a 6-star, 7-star, 25 stars, infinity stars. I love this book. This is one of my favorite books of all time now. That's how much I loved it. This is going to be maybe my top book of the year, if not number 2. I am obsessed with this book. This is also going to be a book for me that I will be recommending whenever someone's like, hey, I need a good book to take on vacation, or I need just a new quick read. This is the book that I'm going to be recommending because this is another genre bender. It does not fit into one perfect genre box. At the heart of it, it's a love story. It's a love triangle between these 3 main characters. And you're in the POV of our female main character, and it goes back and forth between past and present timelines, and you get introduced to the 2 male main characters that there's this love triangle with, and both of them come from completely different worlds in terms of where they live in this English countryside. One of them is very wealthy, well-to-do. One of them has a farm in the English countryside, and you see that come into play when the female main character meets these 2 male main characters, falls in love with both of them, and You just get to see their story, past and present, unfold. But then also, I think one of the most interesting parts of this too is that there's a crime that was committed. There was a murder that happened. There's a trial happening in the background of this the whole time, and you get little short chapters and snippets of the trial. And there was someone that was murdered, and we don't know who the person is that was murdered, and we also don't know who did the killing. So there's this mystery aspect to this too the whole time. And as you're going back and forth in past and present timelines, you're unfolding a lot of these little hints and clues, and you start theorizing who could have done it, who's the person who's dead, what were the motives behind it, and you just start to have this all unravel. But at the heart of it, you're just watching our female main character grapple with this love triangle that she's in, loving these two men for very different reasons, and one of them comes back into her life after being out of it for a long time, and you watch that dynamic come into play. I literally want to reread this book just talking about it right now. I literally want to go back and reread it. I truly, I don't want to say too much more about the story. Just trust me, go read this. Also, the audiobook, incredible. What I did with this one was I actually listened to the audiobook and I read it physically the entire time. So I did a full immersive read for the entire book. Highly recommend doing it that way. The British narrator for the audiobook is incredible. And that just made me feel even more so like I was right there with them in this cute little cottage in the English countryside. I felt like I was on that farm with them. I felt so immersed in this story, and the writing, if you couldn't tell by the 7,000 tabs that I have in this, the writing in this was stunning. Again, this is only a 300-page book as well. So thoughtful, so intentional, so impactful. After you finish it, you will just be sitting there, at least I was just reeling for a few days after this. And I was honestly in a book hangover after finishing this book because it was that good. There are 3 different kind of plot twists or revelations that are made at the end of this. One of them I did predict. The other 2, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What? So I feel like I need to go back in and just reread this, just because now that I know what happens at the end and all those things that are revealed, now I really want to go back and see if any of like the yellow tabs that I had were right. Anyway, please go read this book. I know I'm not doing a great job at explaining it, but just trust me. Next book that I read in the month of March was Wild Side by Quicksilver. This was a new release that I was very excited about. I loved the second book in this series, the Rose Hill series. This is the 3rd book, but the second book, Wild Eyes. It's that orange one right back there. Wild Eyes is my personal favorite book in the series. 3rd one, I liked it. I did binge it. So I will say, if you just ever need a quick bingeable contemporary romance, Quicksilver is your girl. She writes really great escapism kind of romances where you're just transported to another world, whether it be a ranch, a farm, a small town. And this one in particular is about our male main character who has this sprawling ranch, and someone comes to live in that little house behind his, and this person has a son, and some things unfold, and he ends up getting custody of that woman's son. And the sister of the girl who had passed away, who lived in that house, ends up coming back, and it's kind of like a forced proximity trope in that way. So she's the aunt to this boy, and they're trying to co-parent in a way because she wants to be a part of her nephew's life and wants to take care of him, but legally she's not the person who has custody of him. So it's messy in that way, but it's enemies to lovers, which again, I know I've already said this probably earlier in the video. I don't love the enemies to lovers trope at all. That's not really my favorite contemporary romance trope. especially with this one, I just feel like it was so easy to tell that like there was this tension there. I understood part of the reason why there was this animosity or tension, but also you could tell that like both of these characters wanted each other, and I just wanted them to like get over it and just get together. I did not love, personally, the male main character is a wrestler. Wrestling, MMA, I don't know. It's like the wrestling where they're acting and there's storylines and things and they fight. Not for me. It's kind of an ick for me. Sorry. No disrespect to any of the wrestlers who do that out there. I'm sure it's an incredibly hard sport, but I just didn't like that dynamic at all in this. I come into an Elsie Silver book just wanting like small town cowboy ranch romance. I don't want to read about wrestling, really. It is emotional, so check up trigger warnings if you need to. And the next book that I read in the month of March is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. I listened to this one, actually I started it in February. I listened to it on Spotify and then ran out of the listening hours and ended up finishing it physically. My friend let me borrow her book, so I ended up finishing it physically. I liked this. This was a very cute contemporary romance, small town. It's two second-grade teachers, which I really liked. And this, again, is an enemies to lovers trope, which I've already explained ad nauseum. I don't love that trope. But with this one, it was more endearing, I guess, in a way. It was annoying at times too, but I thought it was a little bit more endearing. And I really did end up loving the female and the male main character together. Not the most spicy contemporary romance. I would say you get like one kind of bigger spice scene towards the end. It's just a really cute small town romance and I enjoyed it. I haven't read the other books in this series, but I did enjoy this one enough to potentially want to read the other ones. It was a very quick, easy read. So this was a nice kind of palate cleanser book for me in the month of March. Was Dinner for Vampires. This is an audiobook that I listened to on Everand. It's by Bethany Joy Lenz, and for those of you that don't know, she was in one of my favorite TV shows of all time growing up, One Tree Hill. So being a One Tree Hill fan, that show, for me at least, one of the most influential and impactful TV shows that I watched in my teenage years. I feel like a lot of my music taste stems from One Tree Hill, and just, I love those characters. I love that world. I love Tree Hill. I love, just One Tree Hill has a really special place in my heart. So when I saw that Bethany Joy Lenz was coming out with a book, I knew I wanted to read it. And I think what's tough for me is I'm not going to be rating this because I don't like to rate memoirs, but I wish there was more talked about in terms of her time with One Tree Hill, because that show went on for about 10 years. So I wanted more of that. We did get little glimpses and snippets of it, which I loved and enjoyed. That was like my favorite part, was when she would be talking about One Tree Hill. But really at the root of it, this story is talking about how she ended up becoming a part of a religious cult. Fascinating story. I will say this was such a bingeable audiobook. I listened to it in a couple days because I just couldn't stop listening, and she did a fantastic job narrating it. I was shocked, honestly, about how this cult kind of came to be, and I think she did a really good job of explaining where she was at in her life, career-wise, mentally, emotionally. She was really looking for that sense of community when she moved to LA. And it makes a lot of sense how she was able to kind of justify a lot of these red flags in terms of this religious group that was a Bible study, started as that, and then became what it was, which was a cult. It was a really interesting read. I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook. It was really eye-opening in a lot of ways, but those were the 7 books that I read in the month of March. And then right now it's March 26th when I'm recording this on a Wednesday, and I'm trying to finish this by the end of the month. It's Kingdom of Ash. It's the last book in the Throne of Glass series. And I talked about this last month, but I have been putting this book off because emotionally, I am not ready to say goodbye to these characters. I'm not ready to say goodbye to this world. I love oh my God, I love these characters so much. I love this story so much, this world, everything about it I love, I'm obsessed with. I'm savoring every single page of this book. And I was putting off reading it after I finished the tandem read in January. I'm 378 pages into it right now. And it's a 950 page book. 982 pages. So it's 1,000 pages pretty much. So I have a while to go. I'm going to try to finish this by the end of the month. I can already say, just being 400 pages in, this is a 5-star, infinity star read. I feel like this is going to be my favorite book in the series. I've already cried reading this. I'm really emotional reading this book because I just love these characters so much. Every single character I'm rooting for, except for the villains, obviously. But oh my God, I just never want to say goodbye to this world. I honestly, truly, I could read 10 more books in this series and never be bored of it, ever. This is a masterpiece of a book. I'm not even done with it yet, but it's a masterpiece. So if I don't finish this in the month of March, it will be in my April reading wrap up. But I can already tell you right now, this is going to be an infinity star read for me. The other book that I'm currently listening to right now in the month of March is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I really like the audiobook, so I'm listening to it mainly when I go on my walks every day. I'm about 245 pages into this right now. I feel like there's a lot of exposition in this book, a lot of world building, so many characters, and just a lot of details that I'm listening to, but not really internalizing and taking in. Again, I think this is also a reader error on my part because I'm already in another fantasy world reading Kingdom of Ash right now. So I think it's hard to read 2 fantasy series at the same time anyway, but I do like the audiobook. Right now it's feeling like a 2.5, 3-star read. But mind you, I'm only 250 pages into it. This is book 1 in the series, and book 2 actually just came out this month. So I wanted to read it because I wanted to get to book 2, but I don't know. This could end up being, though, I will never judge a fantasy series on book 1 ever again, especially after I've been reading the Throne of Glass series. I did not love the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series. After that, I became completely obsessed and hooked, and it's one of my favorite series of all time now. So maybe this is just one of those worlds where the first book is just a lot of exposition, a lot of world building, a lot of character building and dynamics at play. And maybe I'll end up loving book 2. But right now I'm not loving this, and I'm very slowly but surely making my way through it. So I might be continuing this in April. We'll see. But speaking of, let's talk about the books that are on my April TBR, being Kingdom of Ash, Swordcatcher. If I don't finish them this month, those will be 2 books that I'm going to be finishing in the month of April. And the next 2 books that I will be reading in the month of April are with my Patreon book club. We voted on these, and these are going to be our 2 picks for April. We have Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez and Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. I am so excited. These are 2 brand new releases. They're both coming out April 1st. I cannot wait to read them with my book club. So those 2 are definitely on my April TBR. Next, we have, I'm so excited about this. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, Magnolia Parks. I'm finally starting Magnolia Parks for the first time. I have a feeling I'm going to love this series. It's been compared to being like a British Gossip Girl, toxic romance, but I've heard that there's very lyrical prose, very poetic. And for me, anytime someone says that a book has lyrical or poetic prose, done, game over. That's like catnip to me. I love lyrical prose. It just makes me like, I don't know how else to explain it other than it makes me love the actual act of reading and the double meanings behind things, reading between the lines. Like that just gets me going. It makes me so happy and so excited. So I've heard that's how the writing is in these books. So I'm very, very excited to read this. So this will be very high on my April TBR list. And the next book that is on my April TBR is the very first book in the Hunger Games. This is by Suzanne Collins. I'm actually doing a buddy read with one of my Patreon community members that's in my book club. Her and I are going to be buddy reading this together because her and I both realized when the new book came out, Sunrise on the Reaping, Off the Reaping. Hold on, I have it. Sunrise on the Reaping. The new Hunger Games book just came out. And for me, I read the first Hunger Games book in high school when it first came out, and I really liked it. I ended up watching all 3 movies in the trilogy, but I didn't finish reading the last 2 books because I went into college at that time and just didn't read a lot in college unless it was for school. I just wasn't reading for fun as much in that season of my life. So I never got to finish the Hunger Games trilogy. So before I dive into the new Sunrise on the Reaping book, I want to actually go through and reread the whole series. And I feel like being 33 now, I feel like I'm going to have a completely different outlook on this series as a whole. And I think there's going to be a lot more for me to glean from it, especially in terms of the political commentary. I'm very excited about that. So this is going to be my buddy read in the month of April with one of my Patreon book club members. Very excited about that. The next book on my April TBR, Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I really hope I'm saying that right, and I apologize if I'm not. I saw Jack Edwards talk about this book in his most recent favorite books of 2024, and there were a couple quotes that he read from this book that sold me immediately. Anytime someone says there's lyrical or poetic prose, again, I'm going to read it. That is literally my favorite trope, if you will, my favorite niche within books is if it has really lyrical, just beautiful poetic prose. Game over, I'm gonna read it. So after hearing him read those couple quotes out loud in his video, I'll make sure to link it down below. I was like, okay, I need to read this book. I'm very excited about it. Also, another person who I love following on here, Sid, I'll put her handle here. I loved her review of this too. So having 2 booktubers who I absolutely love following talk about this, I feel like it sold me and I really want to read this book this month. The last book on my April TBR is one that I found on TikTok. It's called Reservation for One, and it's Poems for the Single Woman by Aaliyah Summers. I saw someone talking about this on TikTok, and being someone who is single and in my 30s, and being someone who absolutely loves reading poetry, I just thought this would be a really nice, not palate cleanser, but just a nice kind of personal development book in a way. And I really love personally, whenever I read poetry, I love using poems as a journal prompt. So I will grab my journal, and usually I'm kind of reflecting as I'm reading the poems and using it as like a nice place to jump off from and using it as a writing prompt. So I will be reading this in the month of April as well. Okay, that was so many books, and I feel like I talked for 9 hours on this thing. So I will do my best to edit this down as much as I can, but I would love to know, what books did you read in the month of March? What ones do you have on your April TBR? And also, if you've read any of the books that I've talked about, please comment down below or message me on Instagram. Let me know your thoughts, because I would love to just nerd out and geek out with anyone who will talk about these books with me. So that is it for our video today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day or night wherever you're watching from.